Hello, Dipitous here. This video is one of two things that I'm doing to celebrate reaching the monumental milestone of 10,000 Twitter followers. The second item of celebration is a special endeavor that will be revealed in detail in a special announcement at the conclusion of this video, so stay tuned for that. So stay to the end for that. I did already tease a bit about how it's going to be Brawlhalla plus D&D, but I'll have more to say about it if you stay to the end of the video. But for now, I am using this video to essentially go through my journey as Dipitous all the way through up to where I am now. 10,000 Twitter followers. That's insane. So what I'm going to do, and so I have this is essentially mostly scripted with some not scripted parts, but yeah, essentially I've done a decent amount of research looking through doing this sort of retrospective, and I'm going to be going over like how the numbers went and kind of like the people behind them, talk about the people behind them. I'm going to go from the very beginning of where Dipitous started, I'm going to talk about the my inclusion into the Brawlhalla Partner program. I'm going to talk about Brawlhalla Underworld a little bit and Global Breakout. And maybe a few more things, and just kind of generally how I'm such an ideas man, and that how I kind of struggle with that, and a few more things, and then finally details about the Brawlhalla D&D special announcement. So, without further ado, let's talk about numbers and the people behind them. So, I joined Twitter in October of 2018. So up there, I'm going to have a graph that I'm going to kind of drag around as I go along here to kind of show where this kind of graphically represent how the numbers have been so far. So So we have like this here is January 1st, 2019. So before that, we have October 2018. So on February 27th of 2020, so we got, about there, I posted a tweet on February 27th, 2020 saying that I would do something epic to celebrate 1,000 Twitter followers. What I ended up doing was a fun little celebration stream, and I did that for a few other, the next few milestones. So I made that tweet when I reached 500 Twitter followers. I reached 600 on March 14th, 700 on April 10th, and 800 on May 2nd. So you can kind of see how that goes there. Then, on May 12th, 2020, the day I participated in an epic Battle Pass reveal event for Brawlhalla, I gained 500 new followers in just 6 hours after the event reveal event started, ending up with over 1,500 total new followers within a day, 1,500 total followers within a day or so. Later that month, on May 22nd, I reached 2,000. September 8th saw me reach 3,000. And September 9th brought me to 4,000. These wide leaps correspond to the releases of new seasons of the Brawlhalla Battle Pass, as I was part of the official reveal weeks, and many followers were attracted to my large-scale lore quiz giveaways on such occasions. So through September and October of 2020, I counted every 100 followers from 4,000. I counted every 100 followers from 4,000 to what I felt then was the ambitious, lofty goal of 5,000. You'll see there's a little bit of a curve there, so that's because I entered in the points where it was 4,000, 4,100, 4,200, and so on and so forth, until I actually crossed that threshold. I counted every 100 followers from 4,000, and then I reached 5,000 Twitter followers on October 27th, 2020. And then I fulfilled my promise to do a big face reveal on Twitch and YouTube to commemorate that special occasion. I genuinely thought there, and I was like 2 years. I had been on Twitter for about 2 years at that point, and I reached 5,000. And I genuinely thought that it could not get much higher than that. But well, 6 months later, On April 7th, 2021, I reached, 6 months. There we go. Yeah. But on April, yeah, I'm going to be covering my face a little bit, but hopefully that won't last too long. On April 7th, 2021, I reached 6,000 followers, 7,000 on August 4th, 8,000 on September 16th, and 9,000 on December 8th. All right, that brings us to about there. All right. So, again, Brawlhalla Battle Pass reveals were a large factor in reaching a lot of these milestones, but I also gained a lot of followers, I'd like to think, by simply engaging with my interests and with like-minded people online. Of special mention regarding my 2021 growth is my recruitment into Global Breakout near the start of that year. I'm certain that along with my increased connections through various projects and opportunities helped immensely as well. And then, of course, there's that seemingly impossible milestone, 10,000 Twitter followers, which was achieved on February 6, 2022. I'll put this graph away now so it's not blocking my face. There we go. 10,000 on February 6th, 2022. I cannot say this enough. Thank you. Such an occasion is worthy of recognition, celebration, and reflection. So I hope you'll allow this self-indulgent retrospective on my time and work as Baron Dipitous up to this point. I have often struggled to explain what I do as Baron. I hope that this look back can help provide context for my approach to content and interactions as, it's always hard for me to admit this, as a modest influencer and in certain internet circles. So my followers on Twitter, I know that some of you are in the Dungeons and Dragons / tabletop RPG space, D&D TTRPG space. I want to say I greatly admire and appreciate your work and creativity. Thank you. Your work and passion is truly inspiring. Some of you among my Twitter followers are in the space of linguistics and conlanging, constructed languages, creating languages. Thank you for helping me retain some of the things I learned in my English linguistics degree, and showing me the possibilities of creative conlanging in that community. Some of you are from Appser or from other fandoms that I enjoy, and I thank you for your interest and passion in the things that I love and appreciate. Some of you are bots. They're like just automated accounts. Thank you for the numbers, but for the most part, you irk me tremendously, especially if you're trying to promote anything related to ideas or products I do not care about. Most of my Twitter following, as far as I understand, are from the Brawlhalla community. As a community, you mean a lot to me. Thank you, Brawlhalla community, for accepting and supporting me as a content creator and as a unique personality in your midst. Of all the groups I mentioned, I am grateful, most of all, to you. Perhaps you follow me for other reasons, and for that, I thank you, truly. So, where did Baron Dipitous get his very beginnings? My hair is doing weird things. The very beginnings of Baron Dipitous. So when it comes to my very early online presence, I generally kept to my real-world connections. Facebook at the time was a great way for me to keep in contact with a lot of great people that I knew, but through my college years, I was using it less and less, especially when I saw an increase in political and social contention that was too often devoid of proper context, nuance, or even considerable civility. Or even considerate civility. Also, while I grew up on the Super Nintendo, the SNES, the GameCube, and the Wii, I wasn't as much into video games as a college student, favoring more musical pursuits on a purely amateur level, I should point out. I was not at all cut out for the kind of rigor required to perform or compose music professionally. That was actually a hard lesson for me to learn back then, when I realized that I could not even be a music major, let alone, I just didn't, I didn't have what it takes, or I wasn't willing to have what it takes, essentially. A hard lesson for me to learn at the time when I was brand new as a college student. That's a story for another time. But I was also around the time I was in college. At about that time, I was starting to really get into Dungeons and Dragons. I was introduced to the 5th edition, for those of you who are familiar with that. And I quickly found great joy in being both a dungeon master and a player with my friends. More of a dungeon master than a player. I enjoy both, but I enjoy being a DM more than being a player. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, also joined in for D&D. I bring the D&D stuff up because for one particularly lengthy and epic D&D campaign, I was inspired by a character in Dominion of Esselund, which is a D&D show by the Heroes of Awesome. You can find it on YouTube. Dominion of Esselund, Heroes of Awesome. It's a bit older. I think it's like 5 or more years old or something like that. Really great, though. So one of the players in that show made a character that inspired me to make a gambler cleric loyal to Lady Luck. The name I gave to this gambler cleric was Baron Dipity, after the word serendipity, which means fortune or luck or things like that. Like the serendipity of research. You found a book on the library shelves, you just ran across it or something. So, anyway, soon after getting married, however, I was finding myself drawn more and more to board games, tabletop role-playing games, and back to video games. I remember some days I would explore the free-to-play section on Steam for hours to find new games to check out. One game that caught my attention was The Darwin Project. Maybe it was because I really liked being a dungeon master, but this game allowed me to take the role of a sadistic game master in a survival battle royale. Pretty neat concept, honestly. I considered getting into this community a bit more. I was later drawn to other things more than the Darwin Project. So, but at the time, I was trying to create a game master persona for myself, and I thought it would be fun to try to have a little fun spin on the character of Baron Dipity. And thus, I came up with the name variation that I've stuck with ever since, Baron Dipitous. Now, the Baron Dipitous in the Darwin Project was not very well defined, but he was nowhere near the persona that's presented now on the internet. There were no navy jackets, no medals, no epaulets. He was every bit the joking game master of a fictional, cartoonish survival death game. Heck, I even tried a nasty, excessively nasally Southern American accent. Kind of cringe, not gonna lie. But that is the origin behind the moniker of Baron Dipitous. It's the full origin, the full story. Now, I had also been working in the library profession for some time, but I got my true start as a librarian gamer when I discovered the Apsler Incorporated series of mobile games in 2018. I think it was about 2018. I was incredibly intrigued by the way each individual game had these teasing connections for those who looked for them. I was also into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time, everything leading up to everything leading up to Infinity War and Endgame. I was really into that stuff because I just love the concept of multiple media pieces connected by a single universe. That's just fascinating to me. Forgive the background noise, hopefully. Anyway, but yeah, different media pieces being connected is just like fascinating to me. I saw that in the Apsler games as well, that similar approach. And I wanted to know if there was an online source that gathered all of that connected lore information in one place. I did not find one, so I reached out to the Apsler developer directly, asking if he'd be okay with me making a lore wiki. And he enthusiastically and gratefully said I could, so I went to work. I tried to emulate research techniques I saw in school and on game theory to make this wiki site on Blogger, so apserwiki.blogspot.com. In my research, I came across a small community of Apsler fans on Amino. Yes, I used to be on Amino for a little bit. I hung out and interacted there for a little while until a fellow fan named Sonic Castle proposed an idea to me. An Apsler fan Discord server, a place where all Apsler fans can be gathered together in one place, because at the time it was very, very scattered. So Sonic Castle and I, the two of us, created it with the developer's blessing on May 2019. I learned a lot about managing a Discord community, and that was my real beginning in Discord. Although I actually think my first Discord server ever was the one for the Darwin Project or something like that. But I didn't do a lot in there. So that leads me into, that kind of leads me into this sort of like this next chapter, my Discord and Twitter beginnings, 2018, 2019 still. The timeline gets a little hazy for me regarding 2018 and 2019 because I don't quite remember the exact order I worked on lore wikis for Apser and Brawlhalla. Apparently, I created a Twitter account in October 2018. I think it was to follow the Apser Incorporated accounts there, the developer and the official company accounts. Excuse me. But I think it was also around that time that I found Brawlhalla as a free-to-play game on Steam. And I started to play that for hours on end. I was initially attracted to the fact that Brawlhalla looked like a free Smash Brothers because I grew up on Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But like with Apser, I found the lore of Brawlhalla surprisingly complex and interconnected. Again, I wondered if a lore wiki for this thing existed, and it didn't, so I made one. I remember I was starting to watch Brawlhalla dev streams around the time that Isaiah was revealed and released. So when people ask me when I started playing Brawlhalla, I say it was when Isaiah was. I say it was around the time Isaiah was released in 2018. I think, was that like May 2018 or something like that? I'm pretty sure I started playing Brawlhalla around that time, and I started watching dev streams soon after that. But yeah. Also around that time, I was lucky enough to win community colors from one of those streams. At the time, they gave away community colors all the time, a little cosmetic in the game. And yeah, back when they were doing that. So Dinohedron, one of the Brawlhalla developers, who was a more frequent on the dev streams at the time, he was on a stream, and then when my name was rolled, I actually remember that he struggled with the pronunciation of Baron Dipitous. I believe he had said something like Baron Dipitous or something like that. I really don't blame him. It's totally fine, obviously. I was a no-name at the time. The moniker is admittedly unusual. And he also had to read one name after another as several dozen winners were drawn in each stream. So I get it. It's just part of the whole thing. I do remember I took a little break from Brawlhalla for a few months just because I lost a little bit of interest. But later, so I think I missed Lin Fei's released, but then later Jiro was, so around the time that Jiro was released, no wait, well, anyway, I took a little bit of a break. I think I missed like one Legend release at the time, but I came back around the time that Jiro was released, and so Jiro and Lin Fei were like the new ones. At that time, I was looking for fellow lore nerds in Brawlhalla, Twitter, and Reddit. Just like, who else could possibly be interested in the lore besides me of Brawlhalla? So after a little while, I was directed to a private Discord server where nerds like Expired and a handful of others talked Brawlhalla lore every time a new Legend was released. It wasn't a very active server outside of new Legend releases, which honestly was fine. It just served its purposes, you know. After a while, I wondered if more lore nerds in the community might appreciate joining the server. So the decision was made to make the server public. And also, when I was showing people in that lore server that I made this website, by my understanding, it was pretty much about that time that Expired and the others pretty much accepted that I was the lore master at the time, the community lore master. But anyway, so all of this is how I became a moderator of both Apser Incorporated and Brawlhalla lore Discord servers. So 2018 to like early 2019 was the time I was making a couple of lore wikis. I got my real start in Discord and on Twitter, and I just generally enjoyed getting back into video games as a married adult. I was much more active in Apser than in Discord at that time, and I even made some Discord connections there that led me to try some cool role-playing servers. I remember those adventures quite fondly, and I was most proud of my character in a deity-led adventure, Baron God of Truth. Some good times, for sure. But I got really sucked into that kind of thing very quickly, and it eventually included some awful drama that I certainly don't miss. Thankfully, that is all gone. That is all long gone now, and I learned some very, very valuable things about online interactions and conflicts. I think it was a lot of those things that I was doing in Discord that essentially taught me a lot about online interactions in the 2010s, essentially, in the late 2010s going into the 2020s. So, yeah. Now, So this is where I was. This is now you kind of know the Baron Dipitous history up to like middle to kind of late middle to kind of late middle 2019. So for me, Baron Dipitous, August 27th, 2019 was the beginning of some of the greatest opportunities I have ever been blessed with. August 27, 2019, the beginning of the greatest things I've ever just been offered. For Blue Mammoth Games, the developers of Brawlhalla, it was Tuesday. I'm serious, it was actually Tuesday. August 27, 2019 was actually just a Tuesday. I looked back and checked. I thought it was funny. I'm not even a fan of Street Fighter, but I know the quote, and I think that's just funny. So anyway, at the time, Blue Mammoth Games, BMG for short, they were celebrating the return of the Back to School event, this was my first time really engaging more with that. And BMG made a tweet promising free codes to those who answered a lore question quickly and correctly. At the time, they often did stuff like this to give away codes for the then coveted community colors. The question, one of the questions, the one that I answered correctly was, who is the national hero of Batavia? I publicly replied, lightheartedly, with mock disappointment, that the question was so easy. It's Diana. Obviously. Oh my gosh. As you might expect, I won one of those codes, and it was delivered via direct Twitter message from the official Brawlhalla account. I don't know if they do things like that anymore, but as far as I know, the developer who was DMing me back then was Brew. I suspected that the code might have been a community colors code. They didn't specify what the codes were for, but I suspected that's what it was. And I already had community colors. I won it from Dinohedron and them in a previous dev stream. So I had an idea with this new community colors code that I won. And I'll read a small excerpt of my conversation in those DMs with Brawlhalla. So I said, question, is this a CC code, a community colors code? If it is, I'd like to know so I can give it away to someone who doesn't have them. I'd give it away, and I would give it away in the form of a lore question to support your back to school season efforts. And to which Brew replied, that's really cool. Yes, yes, that is a CC code. Here's a few more for your efforts. And I was given 4 additional community color codes for a total of 5. It was exciting to get a direct message from BMG, and I had a lot of fun making that first lore quiz. I don't remember what the first questions were, but this was the beginning of my weekly lore quiz giveaways. I had also been sharing my lore site with anyone online who might have a passing interest in Brawlhalla lore. I was getting to be a little bit more involved, and everything changed on the 11th of September 2019. That was a Wednesday. On that day, I got another private message on Twitter from the official Brawlhalla account. More specifically, from the Brawlhalla Partners team. I'll read an excerpt from that message. Hey Baron, you're a top Brawlhalla content creator, which means you're awesome. And because you're awesome, we want to help you out. So, we're starting a new partner program and we want you to be one of the first creators to test it out. Through this new program, we'll provide codes and some social media support to help you promote your content. You'll also have a direct line to the Brawlhalla Partners team to answer your questions, send you new codes, and promote your content on your release dates when possible. All we ask for is your feedback and what you would like out of a partner program, and for you to keep doing what you're doing, making great Brawlhalla content. I could hardly believe it. Me, a top Brawlhalla content creator? I only had a few hundred Twitter followers back then. I would not reach 500 for another 5 months. My following on YouTube and Twitch was practically non-existent. I never shared any art or had anything that I imagined other top creators in any fandom anywhere would have. As I learned more about this brand new Brawlhalla Partner program, and when a Discord server was made for the partners in January 2020, I found myself in the same space as Boomy, Crocky, Calamari Pop before she was hired by BMG, Egg Soup, Jade Wares, Lemon Empress, Lucian Sword, Schwerpy, and Tataya Furkeem. It took a little while for it to stop feeling surreal to me. Sometimes it still feels surreal to me. Honestly, just recounting all of it now, I still feel some of that sometimes. A funny little side note about that, and I have shared this elsewhere in the past. In that Brawlhalla partner Discord server, the BMG devs assigned a role to each of us that reflected the type of content we typically made. There's a red, and it persists even to this day. There's a red role for YouTubers, green for artists, and purple for streamers. The devs had their own blue role, of course. There was also a fifth role, an orange-colored role called Other, which was intended for any partnered creator down the line who wouldn't exactly fit in any of the other three creator roles: YouTuber, artist, streamer. At the time, I was understandably the only one given that role. And I am still, to this day, the only one in that server with an orange role. I never had any real complaints whatsoever about this. Like, it's fine because I understand why, and I just found it kind of funny. Perhaps it's even illustrative of the fact that my journey and my approach to content creation is generally quite different from the rest of the Brawlhalla community. I did ask once or twice, jokingly, if the other role could be renamed to Lore Master or Baron or something. And right now, it's actually not called Other anymore. It's still orange, but now it's the Ultimate Lore Master. So, there you go. I feel I'm pretty proud of myself there. In any case, as far as I understand it, the developers of Brawlhalla had considered me a top content creator because, at the time, mostly because of my extensive research, writing, and compilation work in my Brawlhalla lore site, as well as my tremendous interest in Brawlhalla lore as evidenced by the way I talked about it and shared my lore site online. I understood then, and I still believe this now, that I had gotten that far, that early, for three main reasons. Number one, I had demonstrated extensive effort. I had demonstrated extensive effort in a specific, previously underappreciated niche, Brawlhalla lore. Two, I was bringing attention to that niche, or at least my personal passion for that niche, through community and developer interaction online. In other words, I made myself and my work memorable. And three, no small amount of luck and timing that contributed to that attention. In other words, right place, right time. So I'm pretty sure because of the work, because of like the amount of work demonstrated in my work, the fact that I made something and the effort in that something showed, I shared it a lot, and I was in the right place in the right time. I think those are just general good things to keep in mind when you're trying to get popular online. I was never trying to be popular, but in many ways, I just got lucky, honestly. But yeah, as is evident by the numbers I went through earlier, I'll show you the graph one more time. This right here. So as is evident in those numbers, my inclusion and participation in the Brawlhalla Partner Program was likely one of the biggest factors for the growth of my following on Twitter. The biggest follower spikes I've seen so far have usually correlated to the announcements and reveal events of each season of the Brawlhalla Battle Pass. I'm not sure how much that trend will continue over time, but even if it doesn't, I've found my participation in the Brawlhalla community to be especially and particularly fulfilling and rewarding. Speaking of my online participations, I've been trying a lot of things. A lot of things. Beyond what I already talked about, there are a couple of other major moments of my online career as Baron Dipitous that have really shaped me as a person and as a creator, at least as far as online aspects go. So before I get into those, I want to first explain I guess you could say an embarrassing creative tendency I am constantly trying to improve. And that is starting ideas without finishing them. As I said, I've tried and have been trying a lot of things. I am such an ideas man. And I think I have been that way since I was a young boy, honestly. It has always been very easy for me to get just like these ambitious and grand ideas. Like, I used to want to make a movie or write a book series or make a big video game and actually do all of that on the same IP that I was making up and all that stuff. And I had dreams to do all of these things and also on top of that, write amazing epic music for the movies and games. And when I was a kid, in high school, I was involved in orchestra, choir, musicals, plays, speech and debate, a couple of odd jobs, and somehow I still managed to find a decent amount of time to play a lot of Super Nintendo, GameCube, and Wii games as well. yeah, it's very easy for me to get involved in a lot of cool things. And today, I have ideas for at least a dozen cool projects, like right now. And, excuse me, and each of these ideas sound really cool to me and would require a lot of time and effort to do it well. If you've followed me for a good length of time, you've probably seen how I've tried several of these things, or maybe like declared that I was trying several of these things. I've made Let's Play series on a bunch of games, a handful of podcast episodes, an attempt at making a Twitter-run table RPG story, a little ARG on my Brawlhalla lore site, managing various communities on Discord, designing board games, streaming, doing Twitter spaces, declaring YouTube lectures, making a digital escape room, and so much more. All of this on top of the amount of time I spend interacting with people on Twitter, and I know that this is only scratching the surface of the online activity in the communities I care about because of the existence of Reddit, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, various Discord servers, and more. It's little wonder I often struggle to define what I do as a content creator. It's little wonder I often struggle to prioritize my time and effort as Baron. I have been really thinking a lot about what I care most about as a creator and where my time and effort and attention might be best served. This is why I have so many projects that might, to an outside observer, seem abandoned. I haven't done very much comment curation or deep research for my two lore wikis, apserwiki.blogspot.com, and the Brawlhalla one being brawlhallalore.blogspot.com. I haven't done much work on either of the updating either of those, for example, and those are the things that helped me get me started as Baron in the first place. It's kind of embarrassing to me, really, but at the same time, I've seen a lot of other projects and ideas that I had decided to focus on more in recent years, and there never seemed to be anything inherently urgent about fixing or updating the lore resources I made. I mean, for the Brawlhalla lore site, I always made sure that it was updated to include all the latest legends. Like I just added Arcadia, it's just like yesterday, essentially, on that website. And also sometimes it seems like that also sometimes seemed like the less fun project to take on, next to ideas for podcasts, videos, streams, or other content. So, yeah, I declare and I announce and I declare, I iterate and discard ideas and projects fairly often, maybe a little bit too often. This is something I've been trying to improve more and more, to be less of a starter and more of a finisher. Having said all of that, and as kind of an example of this, there is one ambitious project in particular that means a lot to me, something that I had never seen done in the Brawlhalla community before. Something that I felt could potentially be a huge endeavor that everyone involved would be insanely proud of. Something that I wanted so badly to start, and even when things got tough, I wanted so badly to reach a satisfying conclusion. Thankfully, this time, I feel like I did just that. I am talking about Brawlhalla Underworld. At the end of March 2020, there was, of course, a lot going on in the world at the time, but there were also a few Twitter posts then, posted by an artist who I will call Akiko. Akiko, she posted some really cool art concepts of several Brawlhalla characters reimagined in a film noir crime drama setting. She drew Orion, Vrax, Volkov, Dusk, Petra, Val, and Sidra as fancy, intimidating mafia bosses in 1920s fashion. She also drew Zariel, Bryn, Cassidy, and others as police officers or federal investigators. She even made a beautiful J.C. Leyendecker-inspired drawing of a glamorous Mirage ballroom dancing with the fancy, enigmatic Orion. These art pieces inspired me. I had conversations with Akiko and a couple other community creatives about which Brawlhalla legends would belong in which gang or faction in this alternative crime drama universe. Akiko was considering making a webcomic of this alternative universe, hereafter referred to as an AU, but it was also around this time that she decided to start leaving the Brawlhalla community and pursue other interests. I'll also mention that about this time, as she was leaving the Brawlhalla community, she offered to do some free little art requests, and so I asked her to make. At the time, I was using a public domain picture of William Waldegrave, first Baron Bradstock, as my Twitter profile, and I asked her to kind of take that and apply the Brawlhalla art style to it. And she did that, and I've been using that as my Twitter profile picture to this day. You've probably seen it in some of my other videos in the past couple of years as well. But yeah, there was something particularly captivating to me about this Brawlhalla AU, and I felt very strongly that a fan-made story could, and should be told in this setting. I wasn't an artist, nor was I much of a video editor, but I did know a thing or two about making audio content. I had some podcasting experience, as well as some basic skills in Audacity. Why not make an audio drama in this setting? It would be perfect, it would be fun, and it would be something the Brawlhalla community had never seen before. In many ways, it was the early experience of making my Brawlhalla lore site, something that I didn't see was happening, and a niche that I could possibly fill and try something and see what happens, right? And I was very excited about it. So, with Akiko's blessing, I started to create Brawlhalla Underworld. With some help and feedback from others, such as Hyena and the now named Cleopat, I started to write scripts for 10 episodes to make up a first season, a season 1 of this audio drama, and I made plans for 2 or 3 more seasons after that. I created a Brawlhalla Discord server dedicated to the project, and I started to invite interested artists to make art and character designs for the project. I ran a few waves of auditions, kind of like bringing in more people as voice actors. A few others were invited for things like music, audio editing, social media marketing, and so on. After a few months, there were over 60 people in the Brawlhalla Underworld Discord server. Not only was I the lead writer, I also spent a lot of time acting as director, producer, and Discord community moderator for the project. There was a lot of excitement in the server over the spring and summer of 2020. We got a lot done. It was so exciting to work together with people both familiar and new to me in the Brawlhalla community at the time. I wanted to use my influence and network towards the goal of making this show happen. I spent so much time and energy into this, and many, many others did as well. Not only was it mental work I loved, at times it was emotional work too. The project Discord server became the big hangout spot for many people in the project at the time. Fun times and friendships were forged, and I am aware that some of the connections made in that project persist to this day. Throughout the process, I tried to emphasize over and over again that I wanted to prioritize people over projects. If someone needed to leave, they were welcome to. If there was an issue between people or with aspects of the project, and several things did come up throughout 2020, I tried my best to deal with them appropriately. As the months wore on, however, more and more people became tired of Brawlhalla and or the audio project. Some people had issues with other people in the project, others had issues with how the project was managed, or rather how I was managing the project. I never pretended to be perfect, but in the fall of 2020, several real big concerns and issues were brought up to me that I had somehow missed or mistakenly looked over. Going into holiday 2020, it was painfully clear that Brawlhalla Underworld couldn't feasibly get any further than the original 10 episodes I had written. By February 2021, the Discord server had become far less active, and school, holidays, disinterest, even disillusionment all contributed to this petering out of activity and attention. So I resolved to at least publish those first 10 episodes onto YouTube and make all the project's work available to view publicly online. By spring of 2021, a year after the project started, I concluded the project. Darth Mimi was insanely invaluable to me during these final months. He and I had regular meetings, putting the last 5 to 6 episodes together. Now, you can see everything related to Brawlhalla Underworld on YouTube. It has its own YouTube channel. Type Brawlhalla Underworld in the YouTube search bar, and you should find the channel icon, which is a blue and yellow theater mask with the letters BU. The masks represent 2 opposing characters in the series, Artemis and Orion, in the episodes. Everything, including content, updates, and relevant links, can be found in that channel. And also, there's a link to all of the art and all the scripts and all the plot notes and everything in there as well in video descriptions, but also in brawlhallalore.blogspot.com. In the fanins and AU section, you'll find Brawlhalla Underworld stuff there, all of it. So I learned a lot from that project. I talk about it in this video because it was a big moment for me as a creator and as a person. Many wonderful times were had, and some silly memes were made, like Baron Walk, for example. Many great relationships were made or strengthened. Many skills were developed or improved. Many lessons, sometimes hard lessons, were learned, especially by me. It was a very challenging project in many ways, and I had many personal cringe-worthy moments in it, but I have no lingering regrets. I am insanely proud of what was achieved and developed thanks to that project, and I will always be grateful for everyone who watched, listened, or got involved with it. It was never about me. It was about a unique, exciting idea that dozens of people wanted to explore in the Brawlhalla community. I will always be grateful for the experiences of, and for the dozens of people involved with Brawlhalla Underworld. So, I've talked about my early years as Baron Dipitous, as well as two major developments of my online presence and content: inclusion in the Brawlhalla Partner Program and Brawlhalla Underworld. I'd like to talk about one more in this video: joining Global Breakout. So, as I was getting more and more involved in the Brawlhalla community, I of course was encountering the orgs, right? The esports organizations that recruited pro players and content creators. I had seen, of course, Global Breakout, as well as Team Megavolks, Rectify, I think Cohesion at one point, like Obey and several others, right? I had like a passing understanding of orgs, and I kept seeing people like being recruited into these things. And there were times where an org would just kind of like go ham on like just recruiting one person after another. And I had the thoughts that many other people did. Just kind of like, oh, it'd be cool if I was like invited into this program, into this org and whatever, and like was involved in their projects and like sponsored by them, whatever, things like that. And there was a little bit of jealousy here and there, but ultimately, I am a married man. Me and my wife and I both have jobs. We have stable income, and I was feeling very, very happy with what I had going as Baron Dipitous with my few thousand followers at the time. So, but yeah, things were going good. I was a Brawlhalla partner. I was doing well for myself as a content creator. I was very happy, honestly. I was happy to keep myself aloof from these different orgs and everything. If an offer was made, I was happy to consider it, but I was happy not having it as well. So on that front, everything changed on January 11th, 2021. Actually, I just realized I did not look at what day that was. Let me just look real quick. January 11th, that was a Monday. For those of you who are curious, January 11th, 2021. So what happened on that day? Earlier that day, BMG, through the official Brawlhalla Twitter account, they had teased a little video teasing the next legend, and the video showed the script of a letter by one Charles Darrow. It was very much kind of like a gothic horror, like Dracula epistolatory horror story vibe, and I loved it. It was amazing. I was so captivated by that, and so that was a teaser that they used to tease what we now know as Magyar in the game Brawlhalla. So I made a little video of myself voice acting as James Darrow, right, like speaking the words in the letter, right, kind of like contributing to the sort of like horror sound effects in the video. After I made that, it was just something fun I did in like 5 or 10 minutes. After I made that, I got a DM a direct message from Jovi, of course, the CEO of Global Breakout, later that same day. So the message went as follows. My very first DM from Jovi said this: Baron, I had an idea I wanted to run through with you. When are you free to VC, to voice chat in Discord? It was evening and I was relaxing at home, so I replied that I was available immediately. And I kind of figured, okay, so he probably saw that, he's I mean, of course, I'm sure that people like Jovi and like, Pearpod and other like business people in the Brawlhalla space, of course they would recognize me. They would recognize Baron Dipitous, right? I had been involved in a couple of Brawlhalla Battle Pass seasons at that point. I was more and more of a name, so I thought, okay, maybe they want me to collab. Maybe he wants me to collab with them or something like that. Maybe this would be an offer to join Global Breakout. I wasn't entirely sure, but I decided to go in with an open mind and see what he had to say. And I knew that whatever he would have to offer me, I would take time to consider it. Right. So a few minutes later, after sort of this exchange, like, yeah, I'm available pretty much right now. And so a few minutes later, I got into a Discord call with Jovi. So I really wish I still had a recording of this call. It was a very good conversation. I had never spoken with Jovi before. I don't remember any like big interactions we had, even on Twitter in the past. I of course had interacted with people in Global Breakout, like Schwerpy especially, and other Brawlhalla partners, and other people who are Brawlhalla partners or like other content creators. But yeah, he essentially just like in general. Like, I think it's fine if I'm not revealing anything with any of this here. Essentially, he said that the tweet that I'd made earlier with kind of like, me like voice acting this like contributing to this story. He said that he had been thinking a lot about what I could do in Global Breakout, because he said that he had been thinking about recruiting me into Global Breakout for a while, but he wasn't entirely sure. He just didn't have like something for me to do. He didn't have a way to justify my inclusion in Global Breakout. But I guess like seeing the things that I had tweeted earlier that day kind of inspired him. He saw that I could contribute to storytelling. He had ideas for like, commercials for Global Breakout, like merch or Global Breakout like initiatives and things like that and whatever. All these things that are like sort of like longer term in the works sorts of things. And yeah, and he said I'd love to bring you on board to essentially help create stories, maybe come up with like consistent like little lore and things like that. But just in general, like, writing scripts, like telling stories, the stories of people, the stories of GB, of Global Breakout and everything. And so I'm like, okay, this is, I told him I was very honored by this offer. And so I wanted to take it seriously and like really think about it. I didn't say yes right away because something like this, I felt like I wanted to like think about this more. So I asked him a few questions about like, what was the mission of Global Breakout? How would he describe the mission of Global Breakout? What does Global Breakout want to achieve? And I also asked him what he wanted to achieve through Global Breakout, like what's his personal mission in all of this? What sorts of just like all these things. Like the main things I was looking at, we didn't talk anything about contracts or whatever. I would ask about that later, but the things that was most important to me was do Global Breakouts and Jovi's values, would they be a good fit with my values? Those are the big questions, right? Because my values are something very important to me. Not just family-friendly values, but just like, and not just, and I mean, my religion is a big part of my life, but like just my life values, the way I approach interacting with people, the way I approach making content, the way I approach any aspect of my life. Would being part of Global Breakout be a good fit for that? And so I had like probably a 90-minute-ish conversation with Jovi, and it was very good. He told me his personal story. I won't share things personal to him, but it was inspiring. There was a lot of things I'm like, okay, this is, I learned a lot of things about Jovi as a person, about Global Breakout, about orgs in general, and I told him that I would think about it. I would think about it over the next few days. And I did. I thought about it over the next couple of days, and this seemed like it's kind of weird. I readily accepted the Brawlhalla Partner program pretty easily, honestly. I'm kind of surprised by that in retrospect. But with something like this, I knew that this was, I guess it's because like with an org like this, I guess it felt like, people talk about there might be contracts and stuff. I wanted to be very careful here. This seemed like a potential big step for me, and anytime I have such an offer or decision to make, I usually take the time to carefully and even prayerfully consider my options. I studied it out in my mind. I thought about how accepting this opportunity might or might not align with my own values. So, over the next like day or so, I asked him a few more questions. I told him I had been thinking about the offer, and this was in Twitter DMs after the fact. I said there was one more thing I wanted to ask him before making a decision. I wanted to ask him about contracts and agreements. Like, would that be involved? And if it was, I'd like to see a copy beforehand, right? Before I were to sign anything. Jovi mentioned that he didn't actually normally write out contracts. He mostly worked from project to project. That way, there would be no restriction to prevent anyone in Global Breakout from working on anything else, or like leaving the brand with or without issues, or like leaving the brand if they needed to, that kind of thing. He said, if you want one, I can make one, but I don't. But he said that he didn't usually. He said if you want one, that he could make one, but he didn't usually work that way, with a few exceptions. It might be like some things with particular projects, but in general, he did not. And it sounded like he didn't plan to do that for me. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So there isn't a general agreement or contract just for joining GB as a content creator. I told him I mainly wanted to know what the expectations would be for me if I joined. I knew that specific responsibilities would vary from project to project, but I assumed there would be some overall expectations or requirements that I might need to agree to be a part of the GB community or something. And so he said, yeah. So he said that this would be an interesting answer, but he said he had no expectations for me at all. He said that he didn't want to force anyone to do anything since it's not necessarily a paid gig. He said if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. If we did end up in a situation, like working with a small film studio or something, and then you'd have to fly out, and then I would have to fly out to work on it. Then yeah, an agreement would be written on all the things that we would want to cover, and expenses and things like that. But he said yeah. So he said hypothetically, if you were to join today, and this was again like mid-January 2021, he said if you were to join today and didn't help until 2022, nothing would have been expected from me throughout that whole time. Regardless, he said, he said, if you want, I can still write something out if it makes you comfortable and want to have proof in writing for anything like that. And so I said, okay, so it's all just project based right now. I understand. And honestly, this is pretty much how I work, right? I talked previously about how I in this video I talked about how I've been going through a lot of projects, right? Trying a lot of different things. It seemed Global Breakout was doing some of that same thing. So I was just asking just basically to make sure, and I told him I would think about it a little bit more. But that I would have an answer soon for him. Because those are my main hang-ups there, apart from other things I'd mentioned before. He said, no problem. Feel free to keep asking anything else you need. So I thought about it more, and actually a few hours later, I came to a decision. I told him, and I'm directly quoting here, after much consideration, I've decided to accept your offer to join GB as a content creator. And I'm directly quoting Jovi's response here. This is fantastic news. I can't wait to get you involved with all the amazing projects we got planned. And there you have it. I became part of Global Breakout. I was officially recruited on January 13th, 2021. But the announcement was made, I believe, sometime in February. So it was made publicly known about a month later. So yeah, there you go. And I don't think there's much more that I can say about Global Breakout except that it's just really expanded my opportunities and network in mostly Brawlhalla, but also just in esports in general, right? So, and I've been able to meet Jovi in person. My trip, so when my wife and I traveled to Seattle several months ago for Port Priority 6. That's where I met with Arbiter as well as Kimber and Bearded Native and a few other people and everything. Yeah, that was great. That was a really great experience to just meet with some of these people, and I hope to be able to have more opportunities to meet with not just Global Breakout people, but man, I want to go to a BCX so badly, a Brawlhalla Championship, a Brawlhalla World Championship. I want to meet people. I want to meet people in this kind of outfit. Actually, this blazer is getting a little bit tight for me. I might need to replace this blazer, but just this, I know that if it's just so cool to me that if I were to go to a Brawlhalla focused event and I were dressed like this, I know for a fact people would recognize me as Baron. That's really cool. I would definitely treasure those in-person interactions. Man, this video is really long, I know. It's kind of the thing that I do, right, on YouTube. I wanted to make sure that I took the time to really look back and really talk about my journey here, because again, 10,000 Twitter followers, that's a big thing, right? I wanted to take the time to really talk it through. I'm getting close to talking about the special announcement I teased earlier in the beginning of the video. I was going to talk a little bit more about like what my personal mission or vision, my personal mission statement might be for going forward and things like that. But honestly, it's hard for me to do that. I don't have one right now, but rest assured, just like going through, looking back, I've been thinking a lot about what I might want to do going forward. I've been thinking a lot about what are my values as a content creator really? What sort of content should I continue to focus on? How should I continue to, like, I don't know. I don't have like specific number ambitions. I don't know what to do. And that's kind of exciting to me. And I guess that's kind of how I've just been riding this ride this whole time. And I am just like, I don't know, like I technically have a Ko-Fi page, coffee page, Ko-Fi. I think it's pronounced coffee, whatever. I don't drink coffee, for the record. I've considered doing Patreon. I just don't know, like, I've been doing research lately about, like, would I want to be a full-time content creator? And if so, how would I do it? What kind of content would I focus on? What relationship, like, I've only ever been paid like $100 ever for anything I've done as Baron, and that was because someone specifically hired me as a script writer for a couple of their videos. It was Consolix, if you're curious. He asked me to write the script for a couple of his videos based on ideas he had. Other than that, the only things I've been paid for all of the work that I've been doing, at least anything like concrete, besides that $100, has been, as Baron Dipitous, has been, I guess, if you want to count the skins and cosmetics that I have gotten through my connection to the Brawlhalla Partner Program, and like the game codes that I give away and things like that, or whatever. I've gotten one or two review copies of games here and there. Like Guild of Dungeoneering is the only one I can think of. That was really random. But could I monetize what I do? I've never done that. I've never run ads on my Brawlhalla lore site because I didn't want to. It felt weird to do that. But and I wasn't sure how much money my followers could have. Like a lot of my followers, a lot of the Brawlhalla fandom is relatively young, honestly, like age 13 to 18 or age 13 to 20. So I don't know. I really don't know. These are things that I'm exploring right now. This is where my headspace is at with like what the future of Baron Dipitous is. So, and like I said, I want to be better about not announcing something I'm working on and then just kind of like discarding it later because it's not working out or I lost interest in it. I want to be better. Just like, I always want to be better at a person and still see how I have a really good work-life balance right now as well. My wife has been nothing but supportive. She's playing Pokemon Legends Arceus right now, trying to catch them all. But anyway, yeah, as you can tell, this little section is not scripted at all. It's just sort of like me rambling and just like, I don't know. I always welcome suggestions, of course, but this is something that what can I do as Baron Dipitous? Can I, like, making a living as a content creator? That would be cool. But like, what would I use the money on? What would I like? What can I do to continue to be a good? What can I do to continue to do good? To use my influence in the community for good, to help uplift other people, to help people to become more knowledgeable, to be better critical thinkers, to be better learners, better just students in general, or I don't know, maybe just like I've thought about streaming more regularly. I don't know about YouTube. I've thought about TikTok, for goodness sakes. Yeah, we'll see. I've been talking about people that I've been talking about with my wife. I've been talking with my wife about this. I've been talking with Jovi about some of this stuff recently, and other people. that I very much look up to and trust. And yeah, I will say that the last time I had I was seriously thinking about what to do, what goals to set as Baron, like my goals for 2021. I think that it was around that like end of 2020, beginning of 2021. I came to the realization that maybe my content is more like myself as a person, right? Because like some of the best value that I think that I give is my interactions with people. Like having conversations with people about Brawlhalla lore or about things that I'm passionate about. People call me wholesome, and I love that. I'm glad about that. Gratitude, wholesomeness, intelligence, wisdom. These are things that I value, and I want to continue to provide to people. Again, with regards to monetization, I want to do that right. I mean, like, it's one. I want to be very careful about that sort of thing. Goodness knows that can be a tough line to tread once money gets involved. But just, it's not really about money for me. It's not about the numbers. It's about the people. It's about making a difference. It's about being an effective person and helping other people to find their voice, helping other people to be effective as well. And I want to try to kind of like define exactly what I want to do. I remember Rain Raps recently said that he wanted that his mission statement was to provide opportunities of abundance for people because he didn't have those when he was growing up, and he wanted to give those to other people. I want to try to find some kind of way to articulate my core values of what I want to accomplish in general, the ideal I have as Baron Dipitous. So, yeah. I think you guys have waited long enough for the special announcement, the details about that. So, anyway, I was getting into some deep stuff there, but I wanted to at least express some of that to you guys. All right, now for my special announcement. Like I said, this video is one of 2 ways that I'm celebrating 10,000 Twitter followers. Such a milestone is momentous enough that I wanted to take the time to celebrate it, right? And I think part of celebrating something like that is looking back and having that good, solid retrospective. So now, for my special announcement, I have done several commemorative streams and giveaways before. I had my face reveal at 5,000 Twitter followers. That was a pretty big deal at the time, and I thought that was very successful at the time. And I've been thinking long and hard. I had thought long and hard about how I could possibly celebrate this new, like, huge milestone. And then I thought about something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is play Dungeons & Dragons, hereafter called D&D. So Dungeons & Dragons is D&D. Play D&D in the Brawlhalla lore setting, right? So the lore of Brawlhalla offers a fascinating and colorful, expansive universe with great potential for hilariously epic stories of heroic legends in their chaotic afterlives. I've run lots of D&D games as a dungeon master, and I feel very confident in my ability to translate the aspects of the Brawlhalla lore setting into a D&D context. I'm an expert in Brawlhalla lore. I'd like to think I'm a pretty decent expert in dungeon mastering, so I feel like I'm the perfect person to bring the two together, right? I've talked about this before, my idea of Brawlhalla D&D. I've talked about it on Twitter before and things like that, and I've teased the fact that I'm going to run a one-shot D&D adventure in the Brawlhalla universe to celebrate 10,000 Twitter followers. I have said that before, and by the way, what a one-shot means, it's a self-contained adventure played through one 3 to 4 hour session of D&D. So that's not the full announcement. The fact that I'm going to run a commemorative one-shot of Brawlhalla D&D. I'm going to run a commemorative D&D one-shot set in the Brawlhalla universe. That's not the full announcement. The full announcement in this video is a reveal of the date and time I'm streaming that adventure. So, roll the transition. Oh dear, hold on. Yep, perfect. Now, give me a second to kind of fix this here. Perfect. All right. So, there you have it. Gems of a Dynasty, a Brawlhalla D&D one-shot by Baron Dipitous. Set March 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me make sure that I didn't mess things up. Okay, I was messing around with Windows there. Cool. So yeah, Saturday, March 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Baron Dipitous. I have created a one-shot adventure in the Brawlhalla setting. I have plot hooks and NPCs prepared for this. The title I'm giving this little adventure is Gems of a Dynasty. I have selected 4 players, and they have made their characters. Who are the players, you may ask? What characters have they made for this exciting adventure? Well, oh gosh, that's the wrong one. There we go. I'm not telling you right now, but I will reveal the players and their characters individually in the days leading up to the stream. I'm preparing a fun little trailer for each player and their respective characters. Every single day between the 21st and the 24th of March, I will share these trailers on YouTube and Twitter. Each player has been instructed to... I told each player to make a level 10 character using only D&D material that's officially published by Wizards of the Coast. For those of you who don't know, Wizards of the Coast is the company that is the official publisher of D&D right now. I allowed them, if they wanted to, they could choose to play Brawlhalla Legends, or they could make their own original characters. Regardless, each of these 4 characters will be a member of Odin's army in Valhalla. Each of these will be an Einherjar in Valhalla. They're going to start in the Great Hall of Valhalla. And also the day before the session on March 25th, I will make one final reminder video to tune into the stream, clarifying any additional details that I'd like you viewers to know beforehand. So if you cannot watch this exciting Twitch stream, if you're not available at that time over there, do not fret. The session will be uploaded to YouTube, so you can watch it later if you'd like. But if you want to be there live with me and the players participating in the chat that will be seen on the stream and on the VOD afterwards, you now know the date, the time, and the place. So I am very excited, and I know the players are very excited. I also have someone helping behind the scenes as well. I've never had that happen before. I have a dedicated producer now for this. And also I had someone offered to help with making a unique overlay for this. So unique overlays. So I'm very, very excited. I'm gonna go probably more all out on this than I have in a good long while for just about anything. So and honestly, not only is this a celebration of reaching 10,000 Twitter followers, but also I'm kind of seeing this as a bit of a test run as well. I'm going to be looking to see how the Brawlhalla setting works, the D&D setting. I have actually run one Brawlhalla D&D one shot in the past. There's a person named Saturn who used to be more involved in the Brawlhalla community. She asked me to DM a Brawlhalla D&D one shot, and that went very well. That was very fun. So I'm going to be, I'm not going to be doing the same adventure, by the way, that I did there. I might use elements here and there. But yeah, that's what I have planned, and you can look forward to that. So by the time this video is released on YouTube, it'll be so the D&D one shot Gems of a Dynasty will be a little more than a week away, and I'll be making regular reminders on Twitter about that. So I'm very excited. Man, I'm so stoked about this. Yeah, just in conclusion, thank you all so much for watching, first of all, for supporting me as Baron Dipitous. I am so humbled. Just every milestone, every special moment, every project that sees some degree of success, every good interaction I've had with any of you on Twitter, on YouTube, anywhere. I'm so humbled by all of that. And also, I know that I am mostly a Brawlhalla content creator, and like I said before, some of my Twitter followers are not in the Brawlhalla community, and that's all right. Maybe some of the people who follow me in the D&D TTRPG space will find some interest in this as well. In this, this Brawlhalla D&D one shot. But just know that I'll continue to I've been focusing almost entirely on Brawlhalla because that's where I've seen the most opportunities. I've gotten the most following out of that. But there's still lots of things that I love. I love some strategy games. I love Metroidvanias. I love some puzzle games. I love the lore of other games. I still love the Apps Are Incorporated series. There's some things I want to do with that. Especially update that wiki finally. And also things with like D&D, TTRPGs, and also things with like writing and all the kind of stuff. I have so many ideas, as I always do, but I'm always open to exploring new avenues and stuff. But for now, I've found a really nice place. I feel like I'm in a really good place as a content creator, as an internet personality, so to speak. And I thank you all for watching this video, for kind of going with me on this journey. I know this is probably not the most engaging video to watch, but I hope it was interesting to listen to hear my retrospective on all of these things. So yeah, look forward to more news about Gems of a Dynasty, about this Brawlhalla D&D one-shot, and I hope you find something to be grateful for today, as I always try to do. And make it a great day, everyone. Until next time, all the best.